Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, Martin Bakole versus Carlos Takam is on the Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou undercard. Now for me personally, I don't care about the main events, not what I want to see personally, but the undercard, as I've mentioned before, does actually have some good heavyweight fights. Obviously, mainly Fabio Wardley versus David Adelaide. I'm really looking forward to that fight. And by the way, I mentioned in my previous video the British title wasn't going to be on the line in that fight. Turns out that's not the case, and the title will be on the line, so that's great. But Martin Bakole versus Carlos Takam, for me, is an interesting fight. Now, of course, Martin Bakole is a guy who is trying to push himself up the rankings, had an impressive win over Tony Yoka, and you would have rather have seen him fight a fresher, younger guy, a more relevant contender. However, you know, he needs to stay active, and I don't see Carlos Takam as being the worst opponent in the world, especially when you consider what type of fighter Martin Bakole is. In certain fights, Bakole has had the habit of turning up out of shape, in my opinion, carrying too much weight, and against a guy like Takam, who's always fit, who's always strong, that's the type of thing that could come back and bite him. I think that's what makes this fight dangerous for Martin Bakole. I believe Bakole stylistically may have an edge on Takam. I think he's got a lot of tools that can really trouble Takam, actually. But his cardio, his gas tank, things like that, have never really convinced me. I've always felt that Bakole has more skills than a lot of people realise. I think he's got interesting aspects for a heavyweight boxer to his game. Quite good on the inside, he can work the body, he's really good at shortening those punches up and trying crooked arm combinations, hooks, uppercuts, etc. He's got a lot of good tools in his toolbox, in my opinion, and unique ones at heavyweight. But again, I just worry about the cardio and the ability to fight long in a hard fight, you know, go through the rounds and really kind of engage in a tough battle. And Carlos Takam, if you don't get, he's the type of guy where if you don't get him out of there early and you then start to fade, he can really put it on you. He's a very resolute fighter, Carlos Takam. Very resolute, very, very tough, good chin. And ultimately, if you don't put him in his box, he's going to keep on trying, he's going to keep on plugging away, coming forward, swinging that big overhand right, etc. So I feel this fight, it could go a multitude of different ways. I am picking Bakole, I have to say. But I think Takam is a live dog in this fight, depending on what shape Bakole turns up in. I believe Bakole has a lot of tools which can get to Carlos Takam. Takam's a guy who likes to fight quite compact, likes to come forward with a guard. Sometimes he'll adjust it to a cross arm, but he's got the habit of coming in straight lines sometimes, leans his head over his front foot as he's coming forwards. Takam's got the ability to pick those short shots through the middle, like the uppercuts for example, and really piece up Carlos Takam at mid-range and on the inside. Bakole is a much better worker on the inside. He throws better combinations, he's more fluid, puts his shots together better, and those shots can carry some power. Whereas Takam, when he comes forwards and gets on your chest, he kind of wings one or two shots at a time. And that could be his undoing in this fight, because he's going to come forwards, you would imagine, against Bakole. And he'll get his work off, but there's going to be 3, 4, 5 punch combinations coming back through the middle. It could be a phone booth war, and I expect Bakole to win the early rounds because of his combinations, because he can put his shots together better. But if he's in bad shape, and he doesn't get Takam out of there early on, or he doesn't make a serious impression on Takam, the second half of this fight could be rough for Martin Bakole. One thing we know about Takam, he always turns up in good nick. He always turns up in pretty good shape. And, maybe that could lead to a scenario where he has a bad start, but he then starts to give Bakole real trouble in the second half of this fight. I like this bout. I think it's a good fight. I think it's a really good undercard fight. I don't see either guy really dictating and dominating this fight with their jabs. I could see this becoming a bit of a war of attrition. And again, if Takam can remain tough early on and walk through and sustain what is being thrown at him, second half of this fight, it could get very interesting. I think the upset in this fight is a possibility. I wouldn't say it's a massive possibility, but I think it's a possibility. Would I be shocked if Takam pulled this out? Not really. Not really. Maybe a little surprised, but not shocked. But I do have Bakole winning this fight. I do have him winning this fight. I think he will start well against Takam. I think he'll win the early rounds based on his activity, based on his combinations. He'll use Takam's style against him, in my opinion. And I think he'll sweep the early rounds, actually. It's whether he can stop Takam at this stage. Takam is, 42 maybe? He's getting on, so a stoppage is definitely possible. You could see him overwhelming Takam. I could see either a mid-round stoppage where Bakole really makes a statement, or he then starts to fade in the second half and Takam gets back into the fight, more than likely resulting in Bakole then winning a points decision. I think it's going to be one of those two options. But I'm going to go with Martin Bakole to win the fight. But I'm going to say... I'm actually going to... Do you know what? I'm actually going to say stoppage. I'm going to say Bakole stops Takam in the mid-rounds. I'm not confident, but I'm going to go with a Bakole by stoppage mid-rounds. I think he's got the stylistic advantage. It's just whether he can put enough damage on Takam in that first half. I think he will do, Takam being as old as he is. But, again, Takam looked good in his last fight against Tony Yoka. So, if that doesn't happen, I expect this fight to turn very competitive in the second half. I think it's a good fight. But anyway, share your thoughts below. Not an in-depth prediction video, I appreciate that. Don't really have much time, is what it is. Share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Delboy, peace.